It's more than just stealing gears. It pulls you in and doesn't let go.
Okay, hello. Welcome to the Carousel Podcast. Second episode in as many days. I have with me today Glow.
Thanks so much
Thank
for
you
having
for
me.
coming on. Yeah, what's up?
My article made it to the top. And I'm really excited that you liked it and a lot of people liked it, and that I'm climbing out of my censorship quarantine situation that I've been in for 6 years. So yeah.
So the article that you are a hilarious Substack writer. You talk about relationships and your articles have really good titles, and that's something we can talk about in a second. But the one that caught my eye was this recent one called "White Women Make Sex Gay," which just immediately made me laugh. And then not only did the title make me laugh, the actual article made me laugh even harder. And it's extremely well written and argued, actually. And you're articulating something that's really funny and really kind of insightful, as silly as that might sound to say. Um, so let me just read a little brief excerpt from it, just to give everybody an idea of like what this is like. And then we'll just talk from there. So you say in a certain part here, I pulled out my favorite part, which is Martin Luther's 95 Theses nailed to the Wittenberg church door in 1517 were a less theological revolution than the original Human Resources complaint letter. The Protestant impulse to boil complex truths into tidy legalistic lists has echoed through history, spawning self-help drivel like the 48 Laws of Power and the 12 Rules for Life, each a monument to peasant resentment that reduces life's richness to bullet-pointed stupidity. The same Protestant peasant mentality now finds its ultimate expression in the modern white woman, whose soul, pickled in centuries of puritanical legalism, compels her to nail chore lists to the refrigerator with the same grim, controlling fervor as Luther nailing his theses to the church door. The Catholic Church fought for centuries to save us from Protestantism, the crowning turd of slave morality, a nihilistic bulldozer that flattens life's roaring hierarchies into a gray slop of egalitarian misery, castrating the noble spirit and enthroning resentments as its holiness. The church did everything it could to torch these heretics at the stake, but it couldn't burn enough of them fast enough, which is why we're stuck with the mess we're in today. Thank you. Wow. Flame. Fire.
Thank you.
Great job. Great writing. Really fucking
Thank
good
you.
writing, man. Very juicy. So, all right. So who are you? Where do you come from? What's this point you're making? And why do white women make sex gay? Let's start with that.
Okay, so well, first I come from the red pill. And I am the red pill's top writer. And I know you're in California. I graduated Southwestern Law School, which is not a very good law school at all. And I didn't want to be a lawyer. And up until that point, I had managed gyms. And so, having a law degree and not wanting to be a lawyer, I started writing, and the only place that would like allow me to write stuff that you read was the red pill. And I was uncensored for 2 years, from 2013 up till like 2015, 2016. Then I was hit with more and more censorship, because I think I am hitting a very good point. But in order to hit a point like that, sometimes I'm over the line, sometimes I'm under the line. Sometimes it's just edgy enough, and sometimes it's too much for people, right? And I guess as comedian or as a culture writer, I need to have that latitude. But so I got more and more censored off of Twitter, off of Red Pill. I There was the largest Donald Trump community called the Donald. I was number two. I also have a guest. I have Do you know Samantha Bee?
Yes.
I called her a whore on national television.
Really?
In 2015. She's
Huh.
like, Donald Trump's a media whore. I'm like, you're a trickle down media whore. So I kind of peaked early. And then from there they shuffled me over to people like Charlie Kirk or people who are more centrist. Um, I think you're in your 40s. If you remember in the 2000s, like 40-Year-Old Virgin, like that style of comedy,
Of course.
um, that used to be centrist comedy. People love that kind of stuff. And then the doors started kind of closing on that. And then I think a bunch of NGOs paid feminists to write PhD thesis again, and Twitter used to uh,
Your
shadow ban and
sound is
destroy
getting
everything.
super soft there. Your sound, yeah, maybe,
Is this better or no?
yeah, that was a little better. Maybe just, I don't know if the mic is like too far down there, but yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
So
Now it's good. Now it's good.
okay, basically, I've been through a decade of censorship, and now I've been kind of slowly scrambling out on Substack, and I wrote my book, The Pillars of Wisdom, with um, all of my articles that have been censored over the
Yeah,
past
sure.
10 years. So, I think you're a lawyer. So to hear that you enjoy my writing and that you enjoy it rhetorically and academically, it really means a lot to me. Hearing that from an intellectual like yourself.
The cover looks a little like, the wall art in the sort of slutty, like, yoga girl's house. Have you seen those memes where it's like, "God forgive me what I'm about to do," and then you see this on the wall, and it's,
Yeah.
one of those. It was a little like that.
So, but it's purple. It's eye catching. It's going to stand out on bookshelves.
Sure.
But things are pretty apocalyptic. So I got a nice apocalyptic cover, right?
Well, you're a
Um,
fantastic writer. I mean, just by that clip that I just read, I mean, it's not easy to write like that. So, um, let's talk about the article first. What are you actually let's for people who when they hear that are just gonna completely not understand what the hell we're talking about at all.
so
What's the actual point that you're making?
okay, so I know you write against wokeism, right? And that's like a theme for in your publication.
Sure.
The root of wokeism is Protestantism. It's it's not the left, it's not the right. It's something that is endemic to Protestant whites. Um, and no, I immigrated to the U.S. from Russia in the '90s, and then now I live in Mexico. So, I was in immigrant communities as a child for a while before I started immigrating more into the American mainstream. And it took me a while to figure out like what's going on with white Protestant Americans. Like, why are they different from other cultures? Like, why do they feel kind of held back emotionally? Um, and I wanted to understand their culture, like what's going on with them. And I did a lot of reading, and it took me, you got to pull it all the way back to Martin Luther. Um, in that he, I mean, I don't want to butcher the Catholic Church's argument, but basically he saw the excesses of the Catholic Church, and when you go to a Protestant church, it's just a bunch of wooden benches, and what is it, like a gospel theology? Is that it? Um, so it's not, when people attack wokeism, it's a very serious thing that's beyond the political lens. This is actually a Nietzschean critique. Nietzsche really hates Protestantism. And then if you look at Alexander Dugin, who I know you follow,
He was on the
he,
show. Dugan has
wow,
been
oh
on the
wow,
show.
So he hates Calvinism.
Right.
Um, so it's a pretty serious thing in that I know you're a father, and I think one of the most important things as a father, as a leader, as a man is to set a strong aesthetic, right? Um, and Protestants have a kind of washed away aesthetic, and it leads to families that aren't as strong. You know,
Well,
people,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I think what you're saying is Protestantism is inherently um sort of postmodern in its aesthetic because the thing that matters is the relationship with God, and your earthly pursuits are not important, which is also Calvinism, and it's also other sects of religion. And it's like the ornateness of a Catholic Church is somewhat offensive to a Protestant in a core way because it's celebration of, it's almost like idol worship, right? It's like you're celebrating the wrong thing. So I think what you're saying is, and this is a very Curtis Yarvin argument, by the way, you're saying that the root of this global Borg that is, shaving the edges off of everything and making everything feminist and technocratic and everybody's exactly an equal interchangeable cog, that sort of has its genesis originally in Protestantism.
Max Weber, right? What's the title? I think you know better than me. Like the 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 roots of capital, or like the something about Protestant. But Max Weber has a whole thing on it.
Yeah.
And basically, the Protestant princes didn't want to pay taxes to the Catholics, and they didn't want to leave Christianity. They still want to formally be in it. And so you have this watered down church. So all of those investments can then go into like their capital ventures, like the Dutch East India Company, stuff like that, right? But from there you get like a pragmatism, a utilitarianism, a rationalism, which Dugan attacks. And if you embody that, you're going to be in an IKEA furniture type house, and you're going to be like a 48 laws of power bullet point dad. You know, people need an aesthetic to emotionally attach to. And if you can't provide that, you become kind of like a plastic spoon, and it's really, really dangerous. And I want to, I'm not here to push any religion specifically, but I would say that whatever your views are, or whatever your business is, I encourage you to have a strong aesthetic so that people can have something to emotionally connect to.
Yeah,
But
yeah, totally. I actually run a branding agency, a branding and content studio. I'm not a lawyer anymore, but I was a lawyer, so it's funny that we're both lawyers. So let's bring this back to somebody is asking, what is the title? So I want to at least touch on the actual content of this article. So what are you saying about white women making sex gay? We started with Protestantism, so how does that lead into white women
okay,
making
so
sex gay?
okay, so let's say I think you work hard, right? So you work hard, and I think you have a family. I think you have a wife, from what I understand. You go back, right? And I think you live in a corporate world to some degree. Um, and when you go back, you want a moment of magic, and you want to be recognized, and probably to give recognition and some kind of emotional connection. But American white Protestant women are the most integrated into liberal globalism. So you might have a sexual experience that is corporate or gay, right? And in 2000s vernacular, when people don't like something, they say, "Yo, that's just straight up gay," right? And the article um, says that white women are gayer than gay men, which is and a whole bunch of gay men shut up and they agreed with me. Um, and but the point being though is that sex is supposed to be something special emotionally, if you're religious, religiously. And when I went to university from 2008, 2012, they had this whole affirmative consent. So they were pushing this wokest Protestant sex on people who weren't Protestant, and who didn't grow up in those values, which I would argue is racist. Um, and but it really devalues sex. You really commodify sex, right? Um, and I that creates a certain kind of depression, a certain kind of nihilism that if a good father like you is exposed to in the long term, you will be dragged down into depression, and your emotional investment in your family and will start to suffer, right? The same way that people's emotional investment in the Protestant church is a joke. So I guess when the aesthetics of sex are devalued, it'll start to devalue the marriage, and the emotional bond. But I guess for me, it's not just about sex. It's just when I'm talking to a woman in a relationship, I I I I want a strong aesthetic. I want a strong feeling. I want a certain kind of grandeur, right? Um, and for it to be boiled down into like a job application is uh it's deeply alienating, right?
Well, and that's kind of what it's funny that you bring this up because a lot of people say that dating apps are basically gay male sex apps that have just spread to straight people, right? It's like Tinder or whatever, Grinder is the original dating app. And really, all these people who are doing dating apps are basically the straight people are basically enacting a gay ritual. And that gay ritual, I think you just put it very well, is kind of like it's like an application. It's like you're filling out an application. And that really does devalue, in a way, the courtship ritual and sex itself, because it's just like check mark, check mark, check mark. It's very bug like, right? It's kind of taking the magic out of it.
Well, now you're consuming a TV dinner sex, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And people communicate through their commodities, right? And so, or through their labor, right? And what they're communicating is a low investment. So if she's communicating a low investment, then you're going to do a low investment, and then it's a spiral downward into lower investment, right? Um, but in my article, there's also I call it gay talk, where it's like I talked to my husband in a forum,
Oh yeah. You have a couple great examples in the article of like
and
we
those
should
women
watch
are
those
dead
actually. Hold on,
serious.
let me watch those. Those are actually really good. But yeah, keep talking.
Those women are dead serious. They're completely serious. They fully believe it. They're like, when me and my husband aren't feeling 100%, we quantify it in a forum.
Yeah.
And I lightly touch his penis. And I'm like, I want to kill myself. Like,
It's so
so
true, dude. And it's like we all get this just exhausted feeling, you know? It's just like, oh my God. All right, so here, let's watch this. Let's watch this. This is one of the things you're talking about.
My husband and I did this one thing that completely changed our marriage for the better. It's called Team, and I thought I'd share it with you guys. Step one is touch. You sit next to each other at the dinner table or on your couch. You're holding hands, or sometimes when my husband and I are a little mad at each other, we barely touch each other's fingertips, just like E.T. Second step is education. Instead of starting with all the madness and hate, we share something that happened that day. Here's something that I learned. Here's something that was interesting from today. Third step is appreciation. This is where you tell your significant other something that you love about them. A little secret hack is, if you want to get really good at this, try to incorporate your significant other's love language. And finally, you end with metrics, which is where you give the feedback to your significant other on stuff you'd like them to do a little bit better, and you do it when you're not in an elevated state. Like theoretically, you could say something like, it'd be better if you didn't load the dishwasher like a rabid raccoon, totally unrelated, nothing that we typically fight about at all. But this is why it's called Team, because sometimes it's you two against the
team, because we're just a team together. And I cannot wait to get home and just be educated by my wife in whatever the education needs to happen. And then she can respond with her love language with one touch right there. Yeah, no, it's this whole thing is
But there's a
so
lot of them,
disgusting. So
so that's not an outlier. There's a lot of that.
oh yeah, totally.
And
No, it's
and
everywhere.
no
This is
one
everywhere. This is
and
everywhere.
no one calls them out. Like no one's like, yo, like you're gay. Like you made it straight up gay. You know? This one's look, this woman's dead serious. This is a Protestant woman. She's dead serious about this.
Yeah. Yeah, here's another.
Everyone says marriage should be 50-50. It's the biggest crock of bullshit I've ever heard. It's never 50-50.
Yeah.
Ever. And so what we do is we quantify where we are. So if Steve comes home and he'll be like, I got 20.
Just in terms of energy.
Just energy, investment, kindness, patience. I'm at 20. And I'll be like, I'll cover you. I got you, brother. Like, I'll pull the 80. Sometimes we come home, which we have done a lot. My mom has been sick. And I'll say, I've got 10. And Steve, like 2 days ago, said, I'm riding a solid 25. So we know that we have to sit down at the table anytime we have less than 100 combined and figure out a plan of kindness toward each other.
Oh,
Yeah, because the thing is, marriage is not something that's 50-50. A partnership works when you can carry their 20 or they can carry your 20. And that when you both just have 20, you have a plan where you don't hurt each other. Everyone,
If it's funny that her solution to them having 10 to 20 less is let's now sit down and talk even more about this shit. It's like as if the solution to this, as somebody said, total HR-ification of marriage, is like the solution is just talking about it more. You know, like, oh, we just need to talk more about this stupid bullshit. You know, it is fucking amazing. It really is fucking amazing that where we're at.
But that's so those lists and that quantifying, right? So Martin Luther with his 95 theses, right? Like that's it's similar, right? Like the language is similar where they have a large number of things. There's a list. I mean, I would say I would prefer, if I was married, that my wife scream in my face to that. I would prefer like a very negative toxic marriage with throwing things like a classic Russian situation that my parents did, to that, because at least it's authentic. At least you're not lying to my face. I know how you feel. And you have the courage to express that however you want to express that. I value authenticity, even if that authenticity is negative. But I guess, as a Russian immigrant who double immigrated, I don't know how, I have clients and it's like, how do I get them to not be in that kind of relationship? Or how do I get them to be in an authentic relationship, even if it's negative? Because, you go to work and you're lied to for what, 8 hours a day, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to come home and she's going to continue that.
And then you're just living in the panopticon. You're living in HR panopticon forever. This is what people call the longhouse. This is what the longhouse is such a good term to describe. And it's the HR feminization of life to where everything is totally declawed. All passion is gone. Any bodily mistake that you make is evaluated and we need to have a meeting. We need to have a meeting about you touching Chelsea's hair. You touched Chelsea's hair. We need to have a meeting about this and just make sure that we're all aligned. And the part of the reason I launched Will was to get out of this because I was in that HR nightmare zone. And I just, unlike most men, I am incapable of dealing with it. I can't deal with it. I literally cannot. And so they would have tried to have these like kindergarten grade stickers, like you have a nice sticker meeting with me. And I would just be like, I just sold you $1 million deal. Now you're fucking trying to have a meeting with me about like, I said something mean to Sarah, like, and like, oh, we need to like, let's evaluate, let's set up some parameters. And I was like, fuck that, man. I'm just not going to live my life like it. It's like, I don't care how dominant women are in our world. I don't care how cucked every other guy is. I'm not going to do it. You can go ahead and fucking fire me, which I've been fired plenty of times,
Sure.
or quit, but I'm just not going to do it. I would rather be broke as fuck. I would rather be completely broke working at a bar in fucking Thailand than put up with that shit, for at all. So, but it's amazing. You're pointing out something very, very interesting. And I think what you're saying is the HR-ification that we're all fucking disgusted with in the longhouse working world is now the expectation is that it's leaking into the home.
Well, but
And
it's
it's like, oh, is
doing
it? Yeah. Sorry. No, go ahead.
So I guess to kind of be a little bit graphic, like I feel like the way like male phallic energy, right? Like if I think if a man has an erection, he has to use that erection. Like if you're in an aroused state intellectually, physically, sexually, you have to use it, right? And if she kills your boner, it's hard to get another erection. I am talking sexually and I am talking with very sexual language, but I also like, let's say you're producing an advertising campaign, right? Like in a Mad Men type situation, and you're in this very extroverted kind of phallic giving energy,
Right.
and then they go, it's hard to get back up to that, right?
Right. Totally. And that's the biggest problem with Hollywood right now. There's a great book that you should read called Difficult Men, which was about the great era of TV, Mad Men, Sopranos, The Wire, Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, even. That whole era was the last era. The reason it's called Difficult Men is because that was the last era where men were able to misbehave in Hollywood, right? They were able to be fucking insane. Tony Soprano, fucking James Gandolfini would disappear from set for days on end. My favorite part of that whole thing is David Milch, the guy who did Deadwood, would edit his scripts live with all the hot girls from the production in the dark watching him in a room. He would do it on a projector. And it was like his ritual. That type of insane shit since the Me Too is all gone. Hollywood is now just entirely a intimacy coordinator watching everybody's move. It's total HR-ification. And exactly as you just said, in order to really make something fucking great, you got to have that masculine ramp up, insane, fucking unbridled energy. And as soon as that starts getting fucking managed, you're fucked.
Over.
You're never going to make anything good. Yeah.
I think, I'm going to take it a little bit further. I'm going to kind of push into controversy. So there's Vince McMahon of WWE, right? And Vince McMahon, I heard, is bisexual. And he would sexually prey on men and women there, right? And you think initially you want to be like, yo, that's disgusting, what the fuck, right? But you have to understand that if he wasn't perverse,
yeah, exactly,
he wouldn't be able to write. His whole life is that, and if he's not sexually aroused, he wouldn't have the same attention to detail that he maintained for a long, long time, right? Exactly. So I guess, there are sexual excesses, right? Let's say if you look at Harvey Weinstein, right? But the amount of work that's required to produce good media is so high that you need someone who's motivated, I guess, not just financially or egoically, but they have to be sexually
and you really can't separate it. It's this type of esoteric talk that we're having right now. The funny thing is that academia and the whole world, they've done this whole thing we're doing right now with femininity all the way, right? They've already done this whole exploration of female sexuality and how it connects with sociology and art and blah, 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 blah. They've already fucking done this all day long because it's been sponsored by the institutions for 70 years. So they've done exactly what we're talking about right now on the female side. What we're talking about right now on the male side is very under-discussed, simply because the people that should be having these discussions in public, academics, whatever, they're not allowed to have these discussions. We're barely allowed to have these discussions. As you said, you just got done being fucking censored for however many years. So it's like what we're saying here. People are going to say we sound so crazy and ridiculous and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, dude, we're just toying around with the truth about male sexuality. We're just like saying this is how it fucking is. And I see this myself. Sex is inseparable from your job. It really is. It's like, and there's a reason why Mad Men is so fucking sexy. It's because